In the metaphor, I compare who you really are, the infinite being that you really are, to the sun. Whenever we think of the sun, we think instantly of huge amounts of power and light and heat. And so it's a great metaphor for the power and presence of who you really are. Now, from that infiniteness, as we discussed, we created the illusion of this physical universe as a playing field on which we could play the human game. And then, in order to make phase one of the human game work, we had to create a solid, dense cloud cover, which is the whole process of convincing ourselves that the illusion is real and that we are the opposite of who we really are within it. So we create this solid, dense cloud cover. And I want you to think solid and dense, like concrete or like steel or something. Very solid, very dense, very difficult to get through. And when we do that, everything in the illusion, everything on the other side of the cloud cover, metaphorically, becomes dark and cold compared to the sun, the infiniteness of who we really are. So what happens when you begin the phase 2 game and you start using the tools is that your expanded self takes you to this solid, dense cloud cover, metaphorically, and says, let's start chipping away here. Let's start digging here. And every time you use a tool, you dig a trench, so to speak, within the dense cloud cover a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper. And at the beginning, you haven't broken through. No light or power or heat or energy of who you really are is shining through because the cloud cover is still in place. But you keep using the tools, you keep using the tools, and you deepen the trench, you deepen the trench, you deepen the trench, until finally you poke a hole through. And then some of the heat and the light and the power of who you really are, the sun of who you really are, shines through that hole. Then you continue to use the tools, and you widen that hole, and you widen that hole. And then your expanded self takes you to another part of the solid, dense cloud cover and says, let's start digging here. Let's start chipping away here. And the same thing repeats itself. You dig, 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 dig. It doesn't seem like anything's happening at the beginning, but then ultimately you pop a hole through, and some more light of who you really are shines through. Then you widen the hole, you widen the hole, you widen the hole. Then you repeat this process over and over and over again. You dig a hole all the way through the solid, dense cloud cover. You widen it. Then you dig another hole all the way through the cloud cover. Then you widen that. And you keep doing this over and over and over again until you ultimately knock out huge chunks of the cloud cover. And as you start knocking out these huge chunks, more and more and more and more of the sun, the light, the heat, the power of who you really are shines through. And then you are able to express yourself, the power and presence of who you really are, more and more and more and more, which is when the transformations take place. Each time you poke a hole or widen a hole or knock out a chunk, you could say that the illusion, that the hologram gets brighter and brighter and brighter, and warmer and warmer and warmer. And you have access to more and more of the power and the presence and the abundance of who you really are. And this is what the Phase 2 game is about. Knocking out, ultimately, huge chunks of that cloud cover so that the sun and the power and the light and the heat of who you really are can shine through and transform you and your human experience.